Hi everybody, Manny McFly here. And I wanted to make a video about a beating that took place in Elyria, Ohio, um, April 24th, 2015, in the Midland apartment complex. It was a pretty savage beating where the young man, who was 18 years old, was hospitalized. He was beaten unconscious by three men. The first blow that knocked him out was sort of a sucker punch, or a quick attack where he wasn't suspecting any physical violence, and he was knocked unconscious. His cell phone flew out of his hand, and the men then yanked his pants off, took his wallet and his cell phone, and then continued to beat the man while he was unconscious. The problem with this was the person was a victim to this attack due to a mistaken identity, where the men believed that he had fired upon a friend of theirs in an earlier incident, and they were tipped off by someone with incorrect information that led to the event. I will post the news story so that you can take a look at it, and then when you come back, we'll talk about some other things that I was able to find out about the incident, the area, and some things that you can do to protect yourself from situations like this.
Wrong place at the wrong time ends with a knockout punch.
Punching somebody, kicking them, throwing them down to the ground, definitely a dangerous individual.
But what happened after this hit to the head shocked even the most seasoned investigators. And one officer told us this incident is the worst beating he has seen in 30 years on the force.
And now police continue to look for at least one man in this violent attack. News Channel 5's Paul Kiska live in Elyria right now. Paul, you were the first to report on the attack. What is the latest?
Well, there's no other way to describe this brutal beating except for the word brutal. And Elyria police released us a video in hopes of catching the most violent attacker in the video you're about to see. A video, we want to warn you, that is disturbing. The 18-year-old man is waved across the street, and after talking for just a few seconds, suddenly he's knocked out cold.
At this point, the victim is unconscious. This was a very unprovoked attack.
Elyria Police Captain Chris Constantino told me three men drove to Elyria from Cleveland after hearing a rumor a friend was shot. Police explained there was no shooting, and the 18-year-old
was just somebody who was definitely, unfortunately, in the wrong place at the wrong time, with a group of individuals that were looking for trouble.
Look, as the teen laid defenseless, as the men went through his pockets, taking $20. And a warning, the video you are about to see is graphic. Watch as police point out 27-year-old Michael Nichols, who knocked out the teen, then picked him up and threw him down. And if that isn't enough, the attack took more brutal turns when police detailed to me how 18-year-old James Curry kicked the man and punched him in the head. But the beating doesn't end there. Nichols then jumped on his chest as the victim's girlfriend runs to his side.
You're going to see those three subjects pull out what appear to be handguns and point them at the people that are trying to render aid.
Police and U.S. Marshals arrested James Curry and 24-year-old Sean Buchanan. They're still looking for Nichols, who police say was the most violent aggressor.
Well, I would consider him armed and dangerous.
And the Elyria detectives who worked hard to crack this case and identify the three suspects said they're amazed that the victim actually survived and is recovering. And again tonight, Elyria police say if you see this man, 27-year-old Michael Nichols, consider him armed and dangerous and contact police immediately. Live in Elyria, Paul Kiska, News Channel 5.
The Midview apartment complex in Elyria, Ohio, is a HUD-subsidized apartment complex for low-income families. The complex itself houses anywhere from 1 to 3 bedroom units that are kind of scattered out in a decent green space. I believe one of the websites that I looked at said that it sat on 2 acres of green space. It's a lot of green, like a lot of fields and grass and things around it. I did notice some of the pictures that I looked at, that the surrounding areas and the homes there didn't look to be very, very expensive homes. Seem to be pretty low to mid-level properties that didn't seem to be kept very well. So the area, I would definitely consider it to be more of a typical urban subsidized area, and those apartments probably add a lot of nuisance and trouble to the area overall. I was able to find a Craigslist ad online that did show some updated pictures of the property, and it did list some things, amenities that were not in a lot of the apartment search websites that I did look up. And it looks like they repainted everything on the outside. As you can see in the video, it's dark, but you can tell that there's some crowning and things for, over the windows and doors. Looks like the door was painted. The door on each of those units is a security door, and that is their their attempt at providing security for the people that live there. I was able to find a Yelp page with a few comments on it, and there were 2 women that had mentioned speed bumps, potholes, and unsupervised children, which is typical of these areas, as I have friends that live in them, and I used to live in one in earlier part of my life. I was able to get a little bit more information on the environment of the place where the crime took place. There were a few incidences that had taken place in the last handful of years. Another assault, and then a shooting at the same property. The stuff is quite common to these areas, and not all the people that live in these areas are bad, and I want people that live in those areas to understand that there are things that you can do to protect yourself that don't involve anything extra really on your part, but to take advantage of the liberties and the freedoms that you do have just by living in this country and being a citizen. It's unfortunate that these neighborhoods are overrun by people like this that commit crimes and seek and hunt out revenge. Even if it's the right person, it's still something that is just not good for the environment, especially with small children that see these things and grow up and repeat them. Pretty much. There's a community room was added, a computer lab with internet access. There's on-site laundry and bilingual staff. I'm not sure if that means, what ethnic group lives there besides African Americans or blacks. Could be, Latino, could be some other, group. But there is enough of them that they boast a multilingual office staff. So that is some of the information on the apartments themselves and a little bit of the history on the apartments. They are subsidized. There's low-income families that live there. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be mostly single mothers with children for the most part. They do say family, so I'm hoping, they allow, family units to get in there, that are able to, help them lessen the burden of life by offering them a safe place to live at a low price so that they can, put the little money that they do have into other things such as education for their children, saving, things like that. So, going to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, and exclusively what this gentleman could have done, or some of the things that I had seen in the video that would indicate that trouble was near. First off, it's 12 o'clock at night. This guy's wandering around the apartment complex. Again, doesn't necessarily mean he's up to no good, because I myself like to walk around. I go on walks at night. It helps me relax. I like looking at the sky. Sky in Ohio is pretty beautiful. A group of men were standing outside, which might be typical but they were looking for him specifically, and they called his attention, and he walked over to them. They seemed to be not, I wouldn't say aggressive, but they weren't relaxed. He was relaxed. His posture, his movement showed that he was relaxed, and he felt safe. He felt, nothing was going to happen to him by how, relaxed his shoulders was. The guy with the open jacket, I knew, you knew he was the aggressor, but just by the way he was walking. He stood there looking down at what looked to be a cell phone. That's not something that you want to do. If you are, in a situation like this, you do not want to have a cell phone out looking at it. One, you want to be paying attention to the things around you, your environment. Two, you don't want to show, expensive items, electronics in neighborhoods like that. It could cause you to be a victim of a robbery, and it also takes your attention away from your surroundings. So you don't see everything. You don't see things that could, save your life. So just before the blow, the guys kind of started moving in together and towards him. He didn't pick that up because it looked like he was looking down at his cell phone, and he was paying attention to his cell phone mostly. So he definitely didn't see the guy to his left hike up his pants and start moving towards him. And that is a definite sign of a pending attack or possible flight situation. In his case, if he had been paying attention, he would know that it was going to be a pending attack. And it did happen, and he was sucker punched by the person with the open jacket and knocked unconscious. And at this point, he's completely defenseless, and this is one of the worst situations you could ever put yourself in, being defenseless and unconscious at the same time. From there, they could have done anything they wanted to him. They could have killed him. They could have sexually assaulted him. And these things happen. Fortunately, he survived. He only had $20 taken from him in a cell phone. And that leads to another topic or thing that you want to make sure you're doing. If you have a cell phone, you want to make sure that it's passcoded, because cell phones are a very intimate device today, and they contain conversations, photos, things of that nature that are personal to each one of us, and you don't want that to be exposed to the general public or the criminal element, because there's no telling, what they could do with the information in that phone. They could blackmail you. They could target other members of your family. Things like that. Especially if you have, certain, pictures or things like that in your phone, which, most of us have these days. You just want to protect those things. And with the newer phones, like the iPhone 5S and up, the iPhone 6, I'm sure some of the Android phones have this feature as well, but the Touch ID or the fingerprint unlock, bad move to have that in this situation where the man was knocked unconscious. They could take the phone, take his finger, put it on the sensor and unlock it, and then go through the phone and do what they need to do. Take pictures, text them to to themselves. Especially with these banking apps, they could steal information. They could they can get access to your bank accounts if you have that stuff set up. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself by locking your phone without Touch ID. Make sure that you're not exposing yourself to multiple attacks or multiple problems or leaks in security and things of that nature. You don't want to, be in that situation. And looks like, the person is going to recover. All three of the guys were arrested and charged with felonious assault. Felonious assault in Ohio it's a felony, obviously, but it has no minimum jail time. So based on the things that you learned in the news story. The gentleman turned themselves in and confessed once they learned that there was video of the attack. The judge could take leniency on them and give them, probation, and they might not even see a jail sentence for this crime. So it's very, very important that you protect yourself. Some ways that you can protect yourself: being alert. Your brain's going to be your best weapon. Being alert, being able to avoid the situation. Had he seen, the situation and said, this doesn't look right, he could have turned around and walked the other way. He could have run to his apartment building and got into the security doors where they couldn't access him. That would have been the exit that I would have looked for. I always look for an exit when faced with situations like that. Carry, a weapon, whether it be a knife, a firearm, taser, mace, something along those lines, just in case you get cornered, to free yourself, to be able to get out of the situation, whether you run or you get to your apartment building behind those security doors that they do claim to have. Firearm is a good idea, especially in Ohio. You have a lot of rights here. You can get, a concealed carry permit and have that, and would be justified, had those guys attack them. It's 3-on-1. He's backed up in, he's backed into, a corner, crowd of people. If they were to advance on him, he could draw the weapon and tell them, to back off. And there's security footage that would back up his actions had, he would have to go that route and use a firearm. But thank God this guy was able to survive the situation regardless of the horrible thing that happened to him. And maybe he can, move forward and look for those things and avoid a situation like this in the future. Thank you for watching.